Tattoo artists of Reddit. What is your most, are you sure, tattoo you've been asked to do or have done? Story 1. Guys come in with a girlfriend, wants each other's names, I protest, they insist. We know they'll get it elsewhere and I'm in a walk-in shop at the time, so I say, screw it, let's go. Gets it across his stomach in Old English. The moment we're done, she yells something like, the next time you'll think twice before f***ing some skanky ass behind my back, and runs away. It was awkward to ask for the money. This has to be one of the best forms of revenge I've ever heard of. Story 2. My coworker's boyfriend of a year found out sometime last January that she had been hiding the fact that she had kids from him, but they already had booked a vacation to New York for June. So instead of just breaking up with her, he pretends everything is fine for the next 6 months, until they get to New York. First day there, he surprises her. He's booked them in to get each other's names tattooed. She goes first, and she gets his whole name tattooed, across her back, up by her shoulders. As soon as it's finished, he goes, I know you've been lying to me. I know you have kids. Screw you. And leaves. Like literally left. Took all the plane tickets, everything. Checked out of the hotel and threw all her stuff out, leaving her stranded in New York. The guy was pissed. She got it covered up now, but good lord. Story 3. Dude came in and asked me to tattoo a portrait of his girlfriend. Only the portrait was a duck-faced Snapchat selfie. I jokingly suggested adding her holding the phone, taking the selfie, but he thought it was a great idea. They've been only dating 6 months, and he didn't tell her he was going to get it. He came back a month later to add her name above it. Story 4. Was in booking a tattoo one day, and a woman came in to buy her soon-to-be 16-year-old daughter a tattoo. Owner and tattooist say, sure, we can sort something out. What does she want? Mother says, she wants to get the Playboy bunny on the inside of her wrist. The artist refused and said, I don't want to be responsible for something so cliché and visible in such a young girl. There was an argument, but the woman leaves yelling she's going elsewhere, where her money's good enough. He had strong views on neck, face, and hand tattoos. That didn't stop him from doing a fast food character or in a guy's back, though. Story 5. Definitely had many of these. One really great related one recently. I work at Vic Market Tattoo in Melbourne. If you know the area, you'd know it's one of the old Melbourne tattoo shops. With that history comes a lot of older customers who ramble on about their experience of getting tattooed here over 20 years ago, which is why they inevitably come back. This older gent, easily in his 80s, comes to the front desk and points me out from way down the back of the shop. I want to talk to that guy. Confused, I meandered up to the front to be met with a blush of embarrassment. He stumbles into his request. Now I'm not here to offend you or to make light of the wonderful work you do, but I do have a strange request for you, he states. Here's where it gets weird, and I really feel like he could have led with sense better than, so I was watching this young cheap take a piss the other day, and he just had the most beautiful bee tattooed in his tip, and I wanted to request to have the exact same bee tattooed on mine. Slightly taken aback and slightly amused, I tell him that we can definitely do that, but that there are extra costs involved. Once I told him the price, he almost fell over, then responded and mumbled his way out of the shop. Never will I forget, I was just watching this young chap take a piss. Story 6. I tattooed FCK in a woman's hip. She still loves it, but it makes me really uncomfortable when I think about her at the beach. They also had a friend want me to tattoo his girlfriend's name in Old English on his arm. I said no girlfriends. He was mad, because I was his friend and should do it. I said that's exactly why I wouldn't do it. If they don't last, I'm still his friend. It's incredibly hard to tell someone you won't do their tattoo because their relationship might not last. Newsflash, he got our competitor to do the tattoo. Breaking news, they aren't together anymore. Another guy, when I first started out, wanted to get the Hunter image. It's a cartoon guy clubbing a swastika. Even though it's an anti-racism image, he still would have looked like he had a giant swastika on his chest from 10 feet away and would spend the rest of his life explaining it. I decided not to do the tattoo. Dang, I wonder if they're still friends with the guy. He did warn him of everything.
Hey, guess what? Our team just introduced Rufus rugs. Premium, custom, hand-tufted rugs. Imagine having your own unique rug that perfectly reflects your style. Whether you're a dedicated Naruto fan or simply adore Pokemon and can't resist displaying bus toys, we can turn your dreams into reality. We can create almost anything you want. Don't wait. Dive deeper into the world of Rufus rugs by clicking the first link in the description.
Story 7. My friends called me Banana Man in high school. First sentence in and I'm already regretting typing this. Damn it. I had length blonde hair that I manic totally yellow. When I'd get high, it was often the scene of me with my hair over my face, looking like a banana melting into the couch. Hence, Banana Man. It also made an easy signature that I unfortunately can't draw here, so it stuck. Fast forward a beat, and you have me in the army, no more length hair, drunk on my first Phase 3 outing. I'm feeling homesick and tired of the BS, typical moody new army recruit. I stumbled into, yes, I was stumbling drunk, a tattoo parlor outside of Fort Lee, Virginia, and asked for a Banana Man tattoo. A lady there says she'll do it. Her excuse is she has fantasy items she wants to tattoo. Last month, she got to tattoo a toaster on someone, and now she gets to mark banana off her list. She draws me up a cartoon of a smiling banana half out of its peel, and my Drunken loves it. Bam. Before I know it, I'm back in the barracks rubbing ointment on my upper arm of that. Now I'm in my late 30s, and have had to explain this dumb tattoo far more times than I'm comfortable with. I've got a few more tattoos now, and I love them all except this stupid drunk purchase that I can't get rid of. At least when you buy stuff on Amazon, you get to return it or throw it away. I'd love to cover it up, but it's that perfect size and shape that all my ideas amount to a big black dot in the upper arm. I've even gone to a few tattoo parlors and had artists tell me it's either going to be a big black dot or you're going to see some of it. Story 8. Not a tattoo artist, but when I was getting my tattoo done, this barely 18 girl casually strolled in with her bad boy boyfriend. She explains she's finally allowed a tattoo, and the first thing she wanted was an infinity symbol with her boyfriend's name on her boob, where everyone can see. The guy tells her she may regret this decision later on, as she only turned 18 yesterday, and names for significant others are rarely a good idea. She snaps, says they've been together on and off for 4 years, so she knows better than him. So the guy says fine. Where exactly do you want it and how big? Turns out she wanted it like 20 centimeters across. For the next 2 hours, I watched her cry and bite her lip and grab the cushions while her boyfriend paid her no attention. He was just texting on his phone and kept walking in and out to get snacks or whatever the hell. It's funny how he told her she'd regret it. It was like, I know how this will work out. Please don't. Story 9. I've tattooed a guy's current wife's name on him. In the same session, covered up his previous wife's name, and he also showed me another different previous wife's name he had on him. He didn't want to cover that one, though. She must not have been that bad. We also had this couple come in all the time to get tattooed at the first shop I worked at. The guy would come in sometimes with a side girl and buy her tattoos, sometimes with his fiancée. After they were married, his fiancée wanted me to tattoo their wedding date on her wrist. It felt really weird trying to talk her out of it while not feeling like it was my place to tell her about this guy's behavior. I ended up doing it for her, and a year later she came in to get a red line tattooed through the date. Story 10. Friend wanted angel wings tattooed on her back and asked me to go with her since I was the only person she knew with tattoos. We walk into a pretty well-known tattoo shop in LA, and she explains to the artist what she wants. She explains, it gets even more elaborate with the wings starting to decay the farther down her back they went, and the artist shows us some pretty sweet wings he'd done before. He explains how it will be done. He'd do the outline first, and after a few weeks she could come back and he'll start the detail work. Fast forward to 3 days later when she's topless lying in his chair in bed, and he's laying a stencil down. He asks her what other tattoos she has beside this one, and she tells him that this will be her first one. Tattoo guy's face drops instantly, and he starts saying how he's going to end up tattooing some of the most painful parts you could tattoo, the ribs mostly, and he asks if she can handle it. She says yes, and after a little more talking, it happened. She cannot take the pain at all. She's crying and gripping the cushion like she's about to die. Artist looks at me and his face reads like, is she really going to do this the entire time? After half an hour of tattooing, with an occasional break, he says he can't deal with her screaming in the shop, so he stops. He had probably 10% of the outline done on the right wing. We left with another appointment set, so another person could rehelp her with a tattoo and make it something smaller. I didn't go back, but she went with 2 female friends and from what I heard was another 10 minutes of tattooing. She had a nice wave outline on her back. Going for almost full back tattoo as her first tattoo, a very cliche one. She's very lucky that the guy stopped, and she has a smaller one instead. Story 11. The artist had a drunk guy come in that wanted a raw T-bone steak on one pec. Artist told him no, but the guy insisted. So the artist finally let him make an appointment to come back in a few days when he was sober and talk about it. Dude actually came back and was still insistent that he wanted the steak. Artist told him okay, he'd put together some sample art and the dude could come back the next day. Still thinking this guy would change his mind and not show, but dude comes back the next and he loves the art that the artist shows him. Artist figures, why not? And he does it. I saw the photo of the finished tat in his portfolio. It's exactly as I described, just a big photorealistic raw T-bone steak like what you'd buy in a grocery store. Story 12. I have 2 stories for this, and both are from the same tattoo shop. First, a guy came in and told my friend, the owner, that he wanted the best and most unique peacock he's ever made to be tattooed in his left cheek. So my friend draws up a penis in the shape of a P with feathers behind it. He got his peacock. Secondly, one day a couple of guys came in and they were partners. One had decided that he absolutely, without a doubt, wanted a regulation-sized dartboard in his with a bullseye as his He got it as well. You will see the most bizarre stuff working in a tattoo shop. And if you're up for it, you'll also see some pretty bizarre stories on this channel. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Story 13. I knew a soldier in my unit who wanted Florida tattooed in his chest, where he was born. Tattoo artist put in a stencil, asked him to check it out. He looked in the mirror and declared it was backwards. The artist began to explain how mirrors work, and he quickly responded with, "Look, I can see it's backwards. Just flip it, dumbass." So the artist obliged. When he proudly showed off his new tattoo, the amount of laughter that ensued embarrassed him into wearing t-shirts every second of every day for months. However, he redeemed himself by getting the word cavalry tattooed on his back because, as I'm sure you guessed, he was in the cavalry at the time. However, he once again screwed it up by getting the word cavalry tattooed on his back, which is a very subtle but very important difference. Both tattoos were big, bold block letters, absolutely impossible to cover him. Guy was an idiot in front, behind, forwards, and backwards. If you don't know how mirrors work, you should probably stay away from tattoos. Story 14. I was a shop girl, so it was my job to get everything set up for the tattoos. I had a couple come in and want each other's names tattooed on them. Okay, no problem. At this shop, we had a rule that anything involving words has to have the person sign a copy of the lettering to make sure everything is spelled correctly. So they write their names down, the artist draws up the lettering, and I give them the copies to double-check spelling and sign off on it. The woman looks at the man's name, he wrote down his name to give to the artist, and says it's spelled wrong. We double-check and that's how he spelled it, and he looks at it and says it's right. And they argue about this. I go back and look at how it's spelled on his ID, and sure enough, it's spelled wrong. So he decides maybe it is spelled wrong. The artist redraws it. On all his paperwork, he had spelled his name wrong, the way he had written it for the artist. His name is pretty common. I think he just really didn't know how to spell his name. This was a couple probably in their late 20s, early 30s with a few kids together. His name has to be Michael, right? I know a few with the E going first instead of A. It's weird. Story 15. Another tattoo I documented in prison was on a guy's member. It read, "Your name." I told him I thought that was weird because number 1, it must have hurt like hell, and number 2, some big burly biker dude tattoo artist had to hold your pecker in his hands while he did the work. Inmate told me it wasn't too bad, and he had made a lot of money from it. He said that anytime he was broke, he would just go up to someone he had never seen at a bar and make them the bet that I know we've never met, but I'll bet you $50 I've got your name tattooed on my d. Since the mark didn't know the guy, he would figure that was a sure bet. Into the bathroom they would go and the guy would show him his d and collect his winnings. Don't know if he was telling the truth, but it's a good story. Story 16. Anything with a significant other's name that isn't a memorial piece for someone who has died? A long time ago when I had first started out in this industry, freshly out of my apprenticeship, I used to secretly do these girlfriend and boyfriend names with a dark gray wash instead of pure black, so they'd be easier to cover later. After 9 years, I do them as bold and black as possible and make sure that whoever has to cover it up 6 months later, once they've broken up, has a hell of a time doing it. If they come back to me, I make sure to charge extra. I think I developed this bit of misanthropy after almost a decade of, hey, you may not want to get this. I cover these up all the time and it can be an expensive mistake. Warnings being blown off because this guy you've known for 6 months is the one, and it's going to be true love forever, so what the hell do I know? Story 17. We had this lovely exchange student come into the studio for about a year to get all sorts of piercings. Then the day finally came that he turned 18. So I asked to sit down and chat with him about what he wanted. Now the way he asked me made me think it was going to be this big elaborate design. He asked for a math equation on his foot. He wanted 3 + 4 = 8. I cautiously asked that he knew that was the incorrect answer to the equation. His response was, "Oh yeah, I know. I just think it'd make a funny tattoo." So yeah, sounds like the exact thing an 18-year-old would ask for. Teenage humor is pretty much, hey, here's a thing, let's do it wrong because it's funny. Story 18. While getting my tattoo, a dude comes in because he has lost a bet. The shop wasn't busy and there was just a little mustache tattoo on his finger. So they sit him in the chair next to me and I think, it's funny and adorable. Then he tells the guy he's getting married later that day, let's do the ring tattoo. The ring you can never take off. Pantsless with just a tiny towel covering my as I got my hip tattoo, I suddenly blurted out, "Don't do it." The tattoo guy goes, "Listen to the lady with no pants." He didn't listen. He got the ring tattoo. The tattoo guy says after he leaves, after names, those are the things I hate doing the most. Story 19. The guy that does my tattoo said a drunk man came in and asked for an anatomically correct female genital on his butt cheek with the words, "hop, cold beer," above and below it. The shop doesn't usually allow drunk people, but it was slow. My artist was like, why not? So he did it. When he was finished, the drunk man was so moved by it, he wanted another one on the other cheek. Above that one, he wanted the words, "It is what it is." He paid and tipped him, and my artist never saw him again. Hey, at least it wasn't on his forehead. Story 20. A guy came in and got his wife's name covered up with a portrait of his new girlfriend. My coworker used part of her shirt in the picture to cover up the name. Then, 2 months later, he turned his now ex-girlfriend's portrait into a demon. I started working at another shop, and in came the same guy with a third girl, and they were getting matching tattoos in their hands. When I walked to the front and saw him, he totally pretended he didn't know me. Story 21. A man came into the shop my husband works at on his 18th birthday, and got a pentagram with a goat in the front of his throat. First tattoo in a very visible spot that is satanic. I don't know that kid, but I'm pretty sure he's regretting that decision. My husband refused to do this tattoo, but someone else in the shop did. On another note, my white trash biological father had "Let's F" tattooed in his hands when he laced his fingers together. I never knew what they said when I was a kid. I finally realized at his funeral. I'm pretty sure he got it in prison. Do they ever think that maybe if their biological dad hadn't gotten that tattoo, they wouldn't be here now? Story 22. Distraught dude came in wanting a portrait. I asked to see the reference photo that he wanted to get tattooed. He showed me a bunch of low-resolution webcam shots of this lady from a dating site. I assumed he was trying to impress some online chick he met, so without telling him that was a horrendous idea, I instead said it wouldn't work due to the low quality of the pictures and the heavy filters she used. Later learned that the pictures were of his ex-wife from her new dating profile. He was having a really hard time getting over her, so I convinced him that this probably wasn't the best way to get over someone. He ended up booking an appointment to get his son's portraits instead, and then didn't show up for the appointment. So, a happy ending? Story 23. My sister had a good story about her friend. He found a Chinese tattoo artist and told him he really liked the look of Chinese writing. And since the artist knew how to write and read it, if he could write something clever and not tell him what it says, then tattoo it on him so long as it wasn't inappropriate. So the artist does, and he gets this tattoo on his arm. The artist tells him, "Next time you get Chinese food, show the server your tattoo before you get your bill." So my sister's friend promptly goes to Chinese food and does this. His waitress laughs her face off and brings him the bill with a huge discount. He tells her the story and asks her what it says since he doesn't know. 50% off Chinese food, she replies. Story 24. I've had 3 tattooists ask me, "Are you sure?" All because of the same tattoo. Long story short, I lost a bet, ended up with a pecker on a surfboard tattooed in my butt. Well, it turns out this is a great conversation starter. It always gets a giggle from everyone who sees it. But the tattoo itself isn't great, so I'd like to tidy it up and make it look better, less scratchy. Every single tattooist I've asked has looked at me like I'm crazy. One went as far as to tell me a young woman should not have surfing genitalia on her butt. I wonder what the bet was about. It had to have been something big, because I don't see myself getting a tattoo like that anytime soon. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like these stories, then I'm sure you're like, what made you laugh the hardest in your entire life? I still laugh every time I remember story 2. See you there.